There's a lot of talk about gene editing going on, whether it's about curing individual diseases, eradicating deformities from the world, or picking out your kid like a character customization menu. I want to know why scientists have such a hard on about crossbreeds, because like anytime gene editing is brought up in a movie or something, it's usually followed by examples of animal hybrids like Rillaroos and Dingodiles and other characters from Crash Bandicoot. There's that old cliche of like, we asked ourselves if we could do something. We never asked ourselves if we should. I'd like to add, we also never asked ourselves why the fuck we would want to do that. It seems like a scientific dead end to me. Like, okay, nice, you combined a parrot and a rhinoceros and made an abomination, now what? What revolutionary pathways can you travel down as a result of that? What scientist sees other people using gene editing to wipe out diseases and is like, alright, you keep doing that, I'm gonna keep combining shit. You keep eliminating harmful hereditary traits, I'm gonna introduce a half chimp, half human into society and see how people react. Oh, someone already beat it to death. That's interesting. And right when LGBTQ was about to add another letter. Sad. They would totally do it too, or put it under the plus sign they have, because if anyone feels marginalized for any reason, they should be protected and also get every possible scholarship with merit being a non-factor. Oh, and if you make fun of them, it's hate speech, even though hatred plays no role whatsoever in a joke, but tell that to a chubby girl who works at a coffee shop and just started listening to Panic at the Disco, that fake bitch will tell you you were born a white supremacist. But this all relates to eugenics, because it poses some real important and interesting questions relating to marginalized identities that are based on irregular human biology, like transgenderism, albinism, dwarfism, autism. The debate has always been, should we take the grander step and try to eliminate unfavorable genes for future generations, and also what classifies as an unfavorable gene. Like if you watch Explained on Netflix, they did an episode on gene splicing and CRISPR kits and stuff, where people are theorizing like, what if we could eliminate dwarfism? Not like go around and kill all the dwarves, but just edit their DNA so that it would never occur in future generations. And they had a dwarf chick on there talking like, I don't suffer from dwarfism, I suffer from how society treats me. I live with dwarfism. I am unique. Like, how dare anyone think my kind should be plucked out of the gene pool? Stuff like that. But like, come on now. You're an anomaly and not a positive one. Dwarfism confers zero advantages, other than I guess an improved ability to fit in a suitcase, and a clear and easy path to being an extra in medieval Hollywood movies. People have claimed it as part of their identity, but like it's straight up better to be a normal person in 99% of regards. If I had a cleft palate, I wouldn't wear it as a badge of honor, and I certainly wouldn't advocate in favor of more people having fucking cleft palates. We should eliminate cleft palates. They also showed a kid with Down syndrome, or an adult, it's hard to tell with them, testifying in a courtroom like, am I supposed to be thought of as undesirable? I'm autistic, I get to do the voice. Also, everyone gets to do the voice. The only people who care are parents of retarded kids, who all definitely secretly wish they had regular babies. Of course they do. You're attached to what you ended up with because it's still your kid, but if he wasn't retarded, your life would have been a million times easier, and you know it. I'll fucking prove it. Say you had the power to decide whether your best friend's baby would have Down syndrome or not. Let's say your friend was pregnant and was naturally going to conceive a baby with Down syndrome. If you could press a button that would nullify that condition, would you? Same baby, same characteristics, same DNA, same everything, just Down syndrome or no Down syndrome. You wouldn't willfully let the baby stay mentally handicapped, stunt its growth, cut its average lifespan by half, and multiply the cost of its care and upbringing for your best friend, would you? And if you would, what kind of asshole would you have to be? You gonna let it happen because, oh, it's so great and teaches you perspective? I can't think of a more harmfully selfish thing to do. I am autistic. I would rather not be autistic, and I would eliminate autism from the gene pool in a hot second because nobody deserves to have additional hardships conferred on them before birth. If your issue with that particular situation is that you would have to alter natural progression to improve the baby's life, let's take playing God out of the equation. You're babysitting your best friend's two 3-year-old toddlers. One of them has Down syndrome. They both fall in the pool at the same time because you're a terrible babysitter. They're both equidistant from you in the water, and you know which is which, and you know you may not have time to save both. Who do you swim towards first? The one with Down syndrome? I doubt that shit very much. I love thinking about this situation where you tell your friend they fell in and you can only save one, and after her initial shock and freak out, she asks which one you saved, and you're like, the one with Down syndrome, because that's how you refer to your friend's children you don't know the names of. But like you tell her it's the one with Down syndrome, I really want to see the moment where she has to quickly hide her disappointment that you chose that one. In her head, she's like, oh man, But I mean it, we shouldn't leave the Down syndrome gene alone, or any of these other clear detriments to the health of a child. Saying something like, I hope my kids are dwarves like me. Screw you, lady. She didn't say that, but in general it's a sentiment that exists. You can be unique without being sad to think about, but that's where the identity politics would step in and say you shouldn't take away the opportunity for people to be fucking deformed. I'm surprised nobody's talked about being opposed to getting rid of cancer, lest we unfortunately remove a key part of the patient's identity. Chemotherapy isn't a cure, it's a lifestyle. That should be a slogan for a bandana commercial. Don't get rid of cancer entirely, let people choose if they want to be cured or not. It sounds ridiculous, but just you wait, we will get there. I pose this question to all transgender people who identify purely as the opposite of the gender your body was born with, like the kind of people who would go through gender reassignment surgery to be what they want to be. I pose you this question. Would you be happier if you were just in a real woman's or man's body? And even for people who have already transitioned and need to maintain a steady regimen of hormones and run upkeep on their inside-out penises and whatnot, you would be happier if you were in a real woman's body, right? Or vice versa if you went the other way. Like, the thing about gender reassignment surgery is that it isn't really real. You're still in your original gender body, they just modified it to be an imitation of the opposite sex. So wouldn't you rather scientists prevent the biological phenomenon that causes you to split like this, so you can be born and grow up exactly who your brain and body agree that you are? Or is gender dysphoria more important as an aspect of your identity now? Like, it's not just that you identify as a man or woman, but it's important that you identify as the opposite of what you biologically are, and that's paramount to who you are. These aren't loaded questions. I just think they should be asked. Would you rather just be who you want to be, or is the struggle and trauma of not being who you want to be the foundation you'd rather stick to? That's what you need to discern to decide transgenderism's relationship to eugenics, because biologically it's an irregularity, and I wouldn't call it a positive one given how high the suicide rates of trans people are. So I'd lump it right in with autism and dwarfism. I'd say if you can narrow down the exact DNA strands that cause gender dysphoria, get rid of that shit and let people grow up without the mental crisis. And that wraps a neat bow on gender dysphoria itself, but as for people who identify as like pangender or gender bender, which is a real thing, you kinda need to fuck off with that on your own. Gender bender in particular literally isn't even a medical thing. It's someone who is cis or trans, but just decides they want to defy gender roles. That's not an identity, that's a personality. It's a year-round mental and physical Halloween costume, but it's listed under LGBTQ+ as a legitimate thing. I get it. You're confused and or deluded. You've been emboldened by a movement that seeks to exacerbate personality flaws and carefully disguised mental disorders by legitimizing them as rallying points for people to base their whole existence on, rather than some of them getting actual help that some of them actually need. Bigender is often attributed to legit bipolarism or split personalities. Anything involving a third gender is scientifically ludicrous miscategorization, and anybody out there trying to identify as a worm or a lizard needs to burrow into the ground and stay there. You say the Apache helicopter meme is offensive and ridiculous, but we are closing in on it every day. Maybe it'll be a Chinook helicopter. That one's got a stronger winch. It'll probably be a black guy. Some people probably wish I'd stop talking about this stuff, but it's such a combination of interesting, tragic, and insufferable that I have a hard time not thinking about it. Like some of the pronouns. Z, Zim, Zer. What alien from another planet is coming up with this shit? Because it sure ain't Webster. Like, I'll say it. I draw a hard line there. I don't care if you identify as a genderless android from the planet bullshit. I will never in my life refer to someone as Z unless their first name starts with the letter Z, and even then I'm not that much of a douchebag. Nobody was on Rachel Dolezal's side when she was pretending to be a black lady. I don't know why we're letting some of this slide. But so why the outrage, people ask. Why is it such a big deal to you what other people want to be referred to as? It's not, when it's confined to a bubble of distant irrelevance. I don't care if you want to go into your basement and pretend to be a worm creature, but if you want to unearth yourself outside and stick both heads in other people's business about it, that's where the problem lies. Are you going to be all over my driveway when it rains? Do I have to wake up at 6 in the morning and save you from birds? This sounds like a hassle, and I'm not for it. There's such a narcissism behind creating your own pronoun out of thin air and demanding that people use it. I mean, just ask Sunburned Albino. But so they can't possibly be legitimate. It would be like forcing someone to say things like swag and on fleek to describe shit when they do not normally talk like that. I just went to a pronoun website, and it's literally like a first grade language class from Mars. Sentences like, Z reminded Zerself to pick up Zer umbrella before going outside. I would expect this on a Star Trek fan site, but this is real fucking life. Blarkthorpe flexed Viz muscles. V was very proud that Viz training had paid off. Okay, I made up that name, but those are real pronouns on that site. Dude, breaking news. I just navigated over to the Words That Hurt tab, which is going to be exactly as uncomfortable as you think. Retarded is listed there, obviously, though I maintain my love of that word, but get a load of these right next to it in the same offensive category. Lame, crazy, and dumb. Fucking dumb? Lame? Bad news, I just lost my job. Oh, I'm sorry, that's lame. Whoa there, don't microaggress me, bro. Hey, don't call me bro, dude, I identify as your sister. Okay, it gets worse. This site literally connected the word ugly to white supremacism. This is a site owned by UC Davis, because of course it's a college site. It says, ugly. Word used to put down someone for the way they look can be connected back to white supremacist, ableist, sizist standards of beauty. This is enough to make you throw up. I hope this is enlightening to anyone who didn't think it was this bad out there, because it is this bad out there. And the last time this page was updated was in 2015. Imagine what they'd add today. They also list the word thought, T-H-O-T, and speculate that it originates from the KKK, because we're dealing with lame, crazy, and dumb morons. And how can anyone not see the infectious disease that is spreading throughout our culture? It's funny, but it's dangerous. We can laugh now, but we might not get to in the future. Once you connect the word ugly to white supremacism and ban the word dumb, there is nowhere you won't go. Well, that's gonna do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.